Here is a sad story I found on Reddit. For over 50 years, my grandfather Arthur lived in the same modest brick house at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, surrounded by a sprawling, beautiful garden that my grandmother Clara had built with her own two hands. Clara was the beating heart of our family, a soft-spoken woman whose laughter could instantly warm the coldest room, and her garden was her absolute masterpiece, filled with rows of bright yellow roses, lavender, and sweet-smelling jasmine. They had built a life of quiet perfection together, holding hands on the front porch every evening as the sun went down, content in a simple, deep love that seemed completely unshakable. But 3 years ago, age finally caught up with Clara, and after a long, quiet struggle with her failing health, she passed away peacefully in her sleep at the age of 82. The entire family was devastated, but nobody was more utterly shattered than my grandfather. It was as if half of his soul had been ripped away overnight, leaving behind a frail, hollow shell of a man who suddenly looked 20 years older. In the months that followed her passing, the once vibrant house fell into a heavy, suffocating silence. Arthur stopped sitting on the front porch, stopped turning on the radio in the mornings, and worst of all, he completely abandoned the garden that Clara had loved so much. He couldn't bear to step foot outside, because looking at those flower beds only served as a painful reminder of the hands that were no longer there to tend them. Within a year, the garden that had once been the envy of the entire neighborhood had turned into a tangled, overgrown graveyard of dried leaves, tall weeds, and withered stems. We all tried to help, offering to clean it up or plant new seeds, but Arthur would just shake his head, stare out the window with tear-filled eyes, and whisper that without Clara, the soil was dead anyway. Then, last autumn, Arthur's own health began to decline rapidly. The doctors told us that his heart was simply giving out from old age, and he was placed on home hospice care, spending his final weeks resting in a hospital bed set up right in the living room, next to the sliding glass door that looked out over the ruined garden. One afternoon, while he was sleeping soundly, I decided to go into the old garden shed to look for some of Clara's old photo albums. While digging through dust-covered boxes, I stumbled upon a small wooden box wrapped in faded ribbon, hidden under a pile of old gardening gloves. Inside was a small packet of flower seeds and a letter written in my grandmother's delicate handwriting, dated just a few weeks before she passed away. The note was addressed to Arthur. It read, "My dearest Arthur, if you are reading this, it means my time with you has come to an end, and you are sitting in the quiet room we shared for half a century. I know how much your heart hurts right now, and I know how easy it is to want to let everything fade away with me. But please, my love, do not let our garden die. I planted these special seeds years ago, but they need a cold winter to wake up. Plant them for me when the leaves begin to fall, and when the spring comes, look out your window. I will be waiting for you in the bloom." Tears blurred my vision as I finished reading her final words. I knew I couldn't wait. That very afternoon, while my grandfather slept, I took a shovel and spent 6 hours out in the freezing cold, clearing away every weed, turning the dry soil, and planting those tiny seeds right beneath his bedroom window, praying that the harsh winter wouldn't destroy them. All through the long, brutal winter months, Arthur grew weaker, his voice fading to a whisper, barely able to stay awake for more than a few minutes at a time. By early April, the hospice nurses told us to prepare for the end. But on a crisp, bright morning, as the first warm sunlight of spring broke through the clouds, Arthur slowly opened his eyes and pointed a trembling hand toward the sliding glass door. I walked over and pulled back the curtains, and my breath caught in my throat. Right where the weeds had once choked the earth, hundreds of brilliant, luminous white lilies had burst into bloom, glowing like stars in the morning light. A soft, radiant smile spread across my grandfather's pale face, the first real smile I had seen on him in 3 long years. He looked out at those flowers, tears streaming down his weathered cheeks, and whispered, "She remembered. She's waiting for me." Later that evening, with the sweet scent of fresh lilies floating through the open window, Arthur gently closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep for the last time, his heart finally at peace. He didn't die of a broken heart in the end. He just finished his long wait, finally stepping out into the garden to walk beside the love of his life once again.